For those who are learning our system of government, it's important to understand that the Department of Defense is a branch of the executive department, executive branch of the United States federal government. They represent the department under Barack Obama, the federal government. Congressman Petrie was here. He represents the U.S. Congress, the legislative branch, and we have a representative from Senator Johnson's office, the U.S. Senate. We also have members of the Wisconsin Assembly and the executive branch of the Wisconsin Assembly. It is rare to get these representatives in both federal and state into a ceremony, into a program. So with our sincere gratitude, thank you for coming. For a moment, I want you to think of something. We have a large area here, open. I want you to think, go back 40, 50 years and think of your comrades standing here. Both Khmer, Lao, Hmong, and America. Next year, I would really much like to see American veterans joining us here. Their sacrifices, your sacrifices, in defending freedom and democracy must be recognized, must be remembered, and must be handed down to future generations. So with all sincerity, thank you for your service. It has been a privilege for me to be associated with the Khmer. It's been a privilege with my relationship with General Hang and Hmong as we develop our relationship going forward. It's important that we join together with American veterans, American and Vietnam veterans, brothers in arms, as we go through this process for the next 7 years. Again, thank you very much for the invitation. We're delighted to participate in this continue to grow and become great friends and defend freedom and democracy all over the world.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Okay, please join me in welcoming our next speaker, SGU Captain Saigon Manodet from Commemoration.
ก่อนอื่นข้าพเจ้าขอขอบใจทุกท่านที่ได้สละเวลาอันมีคุณค่าให้เกียรติเข้ามาร่วมเฉลิมฉลองเนื่องในวาระโอกาสครบรอบ50 ปีครั้งนี้ข้าพเจ้าได้เข้ารับใช้ราชการของคาเดนต้าอยู่เมืองไซแกงโลบาบานับตั้งแต่ปี2558จนปี2560พอแล้วปฏิวัติรัฐประหารตั้งแต่ปี1960ถึง62ข้าพเจ้าได้ยกย่าถึงหลวงรัชกาลได้ปฏิบัติงานอยู่หลวงรัชกาลหลังจาก1962ได้จุดแตกได้ยกย่าถึงหลวงพระบางได้ปฏิบัติงานติดแก่หลวงพระบางเสร็จอยู่กิจประจำน้ำบาตรผู้สูงผู้คุณแด่ตัวใหม่เห็นปี1968ได้ยกย้ายไปอยู่กองกำลังเสือปลายอยู่ภาคใต้ที่นอสปังในสวรรค์เขตได้ออกปฏิบัติงานที่โรงแก้งหลังจากนั้นได้ลงไปปฏิบัติงานอยู่ทางภาคใต้ภาคซีที่ผู้หลวงอัตพุนสารวัตรและจุดเก็บยวนตะถุนบ้านช่องสวนได้เวลาจากตัวอยู่ปากเทศอยู่หลักซองเป็นเวลา2 เดือนหลังจากนั้นก็ได้ตั้งค่ายอยู่สะพังหลังจากได้จุดแต่งตั้งเป็นหัวหน้า military police กำหนดได้2 ปี1975ได้จุดกับไปสัมมนาอยู่เบนโดแต่ทางในที่พัดลมแลมสุดโพลิมินแก้วได้สเกตที่มันก็เลยเก็บเกี่ยวเอาศูนย์แต่บางทีเป็นพิซซ่าได้ลงปีเรียนหลังจากนั้นเข้าศูนย์พันก็เลยเก็บมาอเมริกา1980ได้พาครอบครัวมาตั้งถิ่นฐานอยู่วิร์จิเนียจนฮอดจุด1980จนฮอดประเทศที่อยู่แก่ที่อยู่เม็กซิกันที่1983จนถึงและแก่ที่อยู่ฮาเลนจนถึงปัจจุบันนี้สุดท้ายนี้ขอสิ่งศักดิ์สิทธิ์และสิ่งคนโลกยกปกปักรักษาคุ้มครองทุกทางที่ได้เดินทางมาจากบ้านหลวงในงานนี้ยกกลับบ้านโดยความปลอดภัยทุกทางขอความแก่
Just going to make short. That's an amazing story about himself. He joined the Army US SGU in 1958. It got sent just about every battlefield now. Got hurt so many times, wounded. That's why we have 450 like this. In 1975, after coming to In 1975, after the communist government took over the country, he was arrested and sent to the re-education camp. They say re-education camp, but it's brainwash camp. But they cannot watch his brain. He escaped. When he escaped, he ended up in the refugee camp in Thailand. Then he managed to come to the United States. Now he's living happy life in Holland, Michigan, and still continuing the leadership of SGU. We appreciate his service. On behalf of the SGU, we appreciate the service. Thank you. a group member from Ohio, Representative Colonel Saicom and MG And next one will be a member who's working really hard to support this event already. We have planned this event about 6 months ago. And we recognize, take the time to recognize him. Be Won Chan Chang, Colonel Won Chan Chang. Because you are hard work, we would like to recognize you.
Vua Trần.
And next one, and last, Colonel Tony Park.
Tony.
Yeah, wait for you first, you're gonna hit turn. And that's all, ladies and gentlemen. Please help us give a hand and welcome to our Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, we gotta wait. Don't wait for
Well, thank you all for inviting me here today. I'll try to speak as loudly as I can. As mentioned, my name is Justin Nichols. I'm the mayor of the city of Agawam, and I first and foremost want to welcome everyone who is visiting us here today from outside the city of Agawam or outside the state of Wisconsin. It's our pleasure to have you here in Agawam and share in this great event. I also want to thank Mark Nielsen, who is here on behalf of Senator Ron Johnson, Congressman Petri, who was here earlier today, State Senator Joe Leibel, and Assemblyman Paul Fiddle. Each and every one of us here today shows that we truly appreciate all that you have done and celebrate with you here today from the federal level, the state level, and the local level. This is a very exciting day for each and every one of you, and I'm honored and glad that you thought of me to invite me here today to celebrate with you. On behalf of all the SGU veterans in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and throughout the entire country, this is a very special occasion for each and every one of you. And I'm just honored to be here to say thank you for all that you have done and congratulate you on what you've accomplished here today. On behalf of a grateful nation, a grateful state, and a grateful city, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Manitowoc, thank you and congratulations today.
Our next speaker is Wisconsin Senator Joe Lieber. Please give a big welcome.
I think I'll come a little bit closer so that we can all. There you go. Good idea. So that we can all have the opportunity to share in the fellowship and hear ourselves as we're recognizing this special day. Again, I'm Joe Leipom, and I have the privilege of representing the Manitowoc area in our Wisconsin State Legislature. And it's really an honor to be here with you today as we commemorate your involvement in our nation's battle in Vietnam and your support for advancing freedom and liberty across the globe. That's really what we're here to do, is to celebrate that and to recognize your involvement to liberty and to freedom. And those are two such important aspects of life that we really take for granted so much here in the United States. But you and your families know a different type of world, a different type of society. And you were able to help the United States of America to bring liberty and to bring freedom and to advance those goals. And it's important that we recognize and say thank you for those service and for that involvement today. In the state of Wisconsin, we try to say thank you in a lot of different ways. And I think unlike, or more than many other states, we have great benefits and services for our servicemen and women and the veterans that live here in the state of Wisconsin. And I just encourage you to learn more about those opportunities from your state government, from the federal government, from your local governments, as you continue to live and enjoy life here in Wisconsin and in the Manitowoc and the Sheboygan area. It's hard to believe it's 50 years since the Vietnam War. And time has gone on, but what hasn't gone on is our remembrance. Or what has gone on as well, and it hasn't been forgotten, is our remembrance of your service and your sacrifice. And as important as that service and sacrifice is, I think what's also important to recognize and celebrate today is kind of the positive of that. And that's that many of you and your families came to America as a result of this unique relationship that was developed during the Vietnam War. And our communities, our state, and our nation has really benefited from the joining of your cultures and your people with the American people. And here in Manitowoc and Sheboygan, where I live, we have a great Hmong culture. And it's a great influence for all of us to learn and to understand different people and different backgrounds. But then we come together as Americans, and we continue to enjoy the liberty and the freedom that you help to advance, and that we all benefit from here in Wisconsin and the United States of America. I grew up in a grade school in Sheboygan, and the church that I go to was one of the sponsoring churches for many Hmong families that came to America in the late 70s. And many of my good grade school friends were Song Yang and La Ku and other members of the Hmong community that became a part of our church and became a part of our community. And I remember learning so much about your culture and helping them to become comfortable and familiar with our culture as well. And now we look forward to the future as we continue to again recognize your involvement, your sacrifice, your support for the causes of liberty and freedom, and we look forward to our continued partnership and fellow citizenship as we enjoy the blessings of America. So thank you for allowing me to be here today. Thanks for being great Americans and great Wisconsinites, and we ask God to continue to bless us as we look forward to the future. Thank you.
I want to introduce our next speaker. He is Deputy Secretary Michael Caponier. He's here on behalf of Secretary John Skokos of the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. Michael?
Well, I've met a lot of you before. Some of you have visited the Capitol numerous times. Some have visited our office in the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. So I appreciate being here and seeing some of you again. The Secretary sends his regrets, and he wasn't able to attend today. He chose between two of us to attend in his place, and one said, I'd love to see the Hmong, and I said, apparently I'm going to go because you can't pronounce their names. So. I just want you to know that I'm a Korean American, and I wanted to make that clear in case anyone wants to try to talk to me. I was at a Hmong tournament in Green Bay a couple of years ago, and a lot of people decided to tell me how to play soccer, and they didn't realize I wasn't Hmong. So going back, thinking about the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, but no one said some of the facts, so I'll just review some of them again. About 3 million Americans served during the Vietnam era, including 209,000 from Wisconsin. More than 300,000 were wounded, thus opening up the door for a lot of the American Disability Acts that we have today. Of 58,000 men and women's names engraved on the walls of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall, 1,239 are from Wisconsin. I myself, I served in the U.S. Army in the Iraq War. And I'll tell you that I share kind of a perspective personally with all of you is that I served, and my best friend when I served in 14 months in the Iraq War actually wasn't a U.S. service member. It was someone from Iraq, and that was our interpreter. And he basically served with us everywhere, did everything with us. And I remember one of the things that really disturbed me is that I asked him what he did on his off time. When he wasn't with us, what did he do? Because he was technically allowed to go in his country and talk to different people. But the reality is that he said he couldn't do anything. And the reason why was he was scared that someone would call him a traitor and basically want to kill him. And I always asked and wondered, well, what happens when we leave? What happens to you? And he said, I don't know. And I really like, my dream would be to come to the United States. My dream would be to be able to wake up every day in a safe country. And unfortunately, right as my unit was leaving, I had heard that literally the day after we left, he was killed. And it was from one of his own countrymen. It was shot in the eyeballs and died. And it's a very sad thing for me on a very personal level, but it makes me think of like the rest of you. And I grew up wondering, do Vietnam veterans actually appreciate your presence? And I've actually had the luxury of being able to speak to a lot of Vietnam veterans on a regular basis. And they say when they look at all of you that you're their brothers and sisters as much as anyone else in the services. And they get tears in their eyes even thinking about it. In fact, a lot of them were talking, our department has Wisconsin Veterans Museum. And we've been talking about how we want to think about putting up a setup just for you. So that's something we're going to talk about. And Representative Jerry Petrowski, he has a lot of time that he spent thinking about these issues too. And we're trying to figure out what legislation at the state level would actually be appropriate. Because, I was listening to an earlier speaker tonight talking about what benefits or what services are possibly things that you could receive. And every time we get a visit from you at the state, and I know our federal delegation as well, every time they get something, people want to know what kind of benefits are out there that you can get. And I think it's really pleasing for me to hear that that the Filipinos got something finally after all these years. I was in the Philippines myself a few years back, and I got to see a lot of the museum footage and read about like the Bataan Death March and those experiences there. And a lot of those Filipinos now receive some American benefits for their service. So, you know, it worries me as we have this thing in the United States that's getting very popular. You've probably heard of it, the honor flight. The honor flight's there to take veterans back to go and see the monuments in Washington, D.C. regarding their service. And it started with World War II veterans. Now they're moving to Korean War veterans. And now, just the other month, they brought the first flight of Vietnam War veterans. But what's the point? The point is that these generations of veterans are dying. They're disappearing. So let's hope we can have these conversations and do something right one of these days for you before they move on to the next generation for your honor flights. So thank you. I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate being able to speak here in front of you. And thank you for all of your service to our country. And I wish all of you well as time goes by. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy, for sharing your story with us. Thank you. Our next speaker is the Wisconsin State Representative, Paul Tittle.
Thank you. You know, as I was preparing this, I was thinking about some things. And first of all, I want to thank Charles Hang, a good friend of mine, that we've developed a good friendship over the past year and a half. And what a great guy he is to represent you and to be a speaker for this organization. So thank you, Charles. I treasure our friendship. So today, you know, we've heard some stirring remarks about the bravery of the Hmong people during the war in Vietnam. And we've seen what courage looks like in the midst of conflict. We've also sorrowed for the Hmong who have sacrificed so much. It's important that we gather to reflect on these historical events and share a few of these stories so that we do not forget. I want to share one with you. During the secret war in Laos, an American pilot watched the Hmong people being loaded into an air transport. His thoughts were this: the last local inhabitants were being carted into air transports. They abandoned vegetable gardens that would never be harvested, that grew near abandoned houses, with plates still on the table and calendars on the walls. Many of these families had given their all. Family members have been maimed, disfigured, and killed in this conflict. Now the remaining members were leaving their homeland. As I picture that in my mind, about the abandoned gardens and the plates and the tables and the calendars on the wall, it brings to mind a wall hanging that I received as a gift from the Hmong people here in Manitowoc. It now hangs in my office in the state capitol, where I treasure it and I enjoy it on a daily basis. If you're ever in Madison, I invite you to stop in. Please come and see it. It's actually very beautiful. It's a beautiful Hmong embroidery that tells a story that depicts the Hmong in their traditional clothing, sowing seeds, harvesting, and transporting crops from their garden. These are happy scenes, and that wall hanging brings joy to all those who see it. When they ask me about them, I tell them the rest of the story about it. About 8 years ago, I became acquainted with the Hmong living here in Manitowoc. And when I heard about a problem that they were facing concerning a garden, these families were much like families that the pilot described. Several years on the calendar had passed, and now they were sowing seeds and harvesting crops here in Manitowoc. The situation changed when the Hmong were told that they could no longer garden in a spot because federal safety regulations prohibited various activity at a certain distance due to an airport runway. As a result, they needed a new place to garden. The community of Manitowoc worked together to provide a new garden. As it turned out, my church had some extra land for that garden, and we worked together with the local Hmong Association to relocate it and so that they could continue tradition of harvesting and sowing seeds. During this process, I've come to know several Hmong in the area, and I've spent some time together, and I've learned some things about them. One thing I learned is their dedication to their families and their commitment to our community. I learned of these wonderful traditions, and I learned of their love for each other, and I began to love them too. As we have already heard here today, many of you have sacrificed greatly for our nation and for our freedom. Many indeed laid down their lives for us. That service and dedication is something we must never forget. To the Hmong people, we say together on this day, we are grateful for what you have done and the loved ones and what they have sacrificed for us. We appreciate your willingness of your family members and friends to die in a distant land 2 generations ago. We appreciate your service to our communities and to our state and to make our nation a better place. In our history books, we have known you as loyal American allies. In our hearts, we have come to love you as our neighbors and our friends. It's an honor to stand here with you in this place today, and I just thank you very much for all that you did, and thank you for serving your country and mine. God bless you.
Thank you, Representative Tittle. Please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Mark Nielsen. He is here on behalf of U.S. Senator Ron Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting the senator and representative. First off, I'd just like to say, in our conference call Tuesday, Ron did ask I pass on that he's sorry he's not here. He said with respect, he would like to be here, but of course he's out in D.C. This week. There's some pressing issues that need to be taken care of by the end of the month, and he's out there doing that. So I just want to pass on that he wishes that he could be here. You know, we're here celebrating 50 years of the Vietnam War and of your dedication and of what you did with the Special Guerrilla Unit. It's kind of hard to say celebrate because of what war truly is. I myself served 28 years in the Marine Corps, so I know going out and being out there in war is not something you really want to celebrate. But the dedication, the hard work, commitment that all of you did really did make a difference. And to commend you on that, it is a true honor for myself, someone who served, to be here among you right now. I want to hit on a few points. Listening to the speakers here today, bringing up some key points. What really sticks out to me, I was born in the 60s, and so that for myself, I'm a history buff, and studying history and learning about it. You know, we know certain aspects about the Vietnam War, but we don't necessarily, my generation, know exactly what you did do to help the American armed forces over there. Studying and reading up on what you did and finding out and reading that really needs to be resonated back into the younger generation so that they know exactly what you did give and sacrifice. As Paul stated in his talk, of what, you know, what that, I'm sorry, was it a plate or a tapestry, of what that did. I mean, that, for the average person out there, really needs to hit home with them. You know, one aspect for myself, your children who are now serving in, or grandchildren serving in our forces, I had a very good friend, he's still alive, when he was out traveling. I served with him in the Marine Corps. He's a second generation Hmong person, serving in the Marine Corps, and I really got to learn his struggles that he had, where his family had to go and live in Thailand in a refugee camp, and then come over to California, and then moving here to the United States. I think what Joe hit on, growing up with those guys, with the kids that he went to school with, and really getting a truly face-to-face and realizing the struggles that you went through. So the real point I wanted to say to you is that it is an honor to be here with you today, celebrating 50 years, and the commitment, the hard work, and the struggles that you went through, I commend you and thank you for all that you did. So thank you very much.
All right, please join me in welcoming our next speaker. James Santel, United States Attorney from Eastern District of Wisconsin.
Thank you so much for welcoming me so warmly today. It's a pleasure to be with you, as it is all the other speakers and guests here today. My name is Jim Santel. I'm the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Wisconsin, and that is a very fancy way of saying I'm the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer of this part of the state of Wisconsin. I was appointed by the President in January of 2010 to serve in that capacity, along with 92 other U.S. attorneys around the country. One of my colleagues, John Beaudry, also serves in Wisconsin in the Madison area. But in eastern Wisconsin, I'm responsible for enforcing the laws of federal and civil and criminal, and that's what we do on a regular basis on your behalf. It is a great pleasure to be with you today because of that mission that we are partnering together in doing and pursuing. It is the reason why you made a contribution to this nation and to the safety of the world that brings us together. And I'd like to spend a few moments today talking with you about the ways in which your service in the past and to this day continue to animate the work of the U.S. Department of Justice. Like many other speakers, I spent all my life here in Wisconsin. I'm a native of Milwaukee, and for the past 28 years, I've served as a prosecutor and a litigator. And it has been a great pleasure to get to know the Hmong population in this part of the state and in other parts of the country. One of the things that we do on your behalf and on behalf of all Americans is enforce the civil rights laws of this nation. And it is a source, once again, of great pride, but also great challenge on a regular basis. There is no doubt that today, even in 2013, as much as we may think that we are beyond the prejudice and the racial discrimination of the past, that there is still bias and discrimination in this country, and yes, right in Wisconsin. One of the things that we partner with you in doing on a regular basis, to honor the service that you gave to this country, that you continue to give to this country and to the world on a regular basis, is to fight that discrimination and to fight that bias every day. I am very much aware, as the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer in this part of the country, the Hmong population, the Lao population, populations of others from Southeastern Asia continue to be the focus of discrimination and bias. I see it, regrettably, in law enforcement, when sometimes language issues prevent us from doing things in the ways that we should. And on a daily basis, we're working in Milwaukee, in Green Bay, in Manitowoc, in Sheboygan, other places throughout the state of Wisconsin, to ensure that the Hmong population and others are treated well and appropriately and consistent with the Constitution of the United States of America when it comes to basic law enforcement processes. And that includes involvement with police officers, both to address crime, respond to crime, and significantly, when members of the Hmong population and others are the victims of crime, to ensure that the United States government and the U.S. Department of Justice is there to protect you and to ensure that your rights are enforced. That's my mission. That's what the President tells me to do every day. The Attorney General, Eric Holder, is commissioned to do, and that's what we do here on a regular basis. How do we go about doing that? Well, a number of different ways. As I said, we work dramatically and intimately with law enforcement, state, local, federal, and even tribal, to ensure that those lessons about the ways in which we treat Americans, all Americans, regardless of their race, their national origin, their background, their heritage, their faith, their sexual orientation, any disability, whoever they are entitled to protections of the U.S. Constitution. And so we do, in fact, ensure that on a regular basis, those people who are the victims of discrimination are responded to appropriately, and sometimes that we bring into court those people who would violate your constitutional rights. How do we do that? We are aware of the fact that there are people in this country who still discriminate on the basis of race and color and national origin and all those others characteristics in housing. The Fair Housing Act prohibits that directly. And my office and I and 92 other U.S. attorneys routinely file lawsuits to ensure that you and all citizens of America are given the right to housing in the ways and in the venues that are proper, and that you're not the victims of discrimination based upon what you are, or who you are, or what your background is, but you're given all the rights and privileges of housing as everyone else does. That's the Fair Housing Act. We talked a little bit earlier today, Scott Walker did, and others, about the Americans with Disabilities Act. Very much aware of the fact that Hmong population, like all populations, has those members, including especially veterans, who have suffered disabilities, continue to suffer, and live with disabilities well and effectively, but are also the subject sometimes of discrimination based upon those disabilities. The Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits that in housing, in accommodations, in education, in health care, and all the other trappings of American life. And we file lawsuits on a regular basis on your behalf and on behalf of other Americans to ensure that your rights are enforced. And we work with you, the Hmong population, Lao population, and populations of all of us here in eastern Wisconsin, throughout the state and throughout the country, to ensure that people who deny your rights to health care, to education, to access, to public assembly, that those kinds of people are prohibited from doing those things and will be brought to justice and told that they cannot pursue those kinds of activities. That is very important work. And it's important civil rights work because it's often said that civil rights is the great unfinished business of America. I want to tell you today, the message I convey from the Attorney General Eric Holder, from 92 other U.S. attorneys, from the President of the United States of America, is the civil rights that you have will be enforced by U.S. attorneys, will be enforced by federal and state and local and tribal law enforcement, and whether it's under the Fair Housing Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Shepherd-Berg Hate Crimes Act, which prohibits violence premised upon hatred and based upon bias and prejudice. All those laws that ensure your civil rights are what we do to enforce your position, your posture, right here in America, right here in Wisconsin. One of the things that I need to call upon you to do to ensure that we're able to do that work well is to work with us and partner with us. When you identify prejudice and bias and discrimination, we need to know about it. In my office and any other offices, including the offices of our congressmen, our senators, our governor, certainly the office of federal, state, and local government of all kinds, there are victim witness coordinators, there are outreach community people who are here to listen to you and to take those stories. Unless we hear about that, about the prejudice that sometimes is visited upon you and others, we cannot work to address it. And we do that once again, not only because the law says it's the law, but because that's what we do in honor of the service that you gave to this country, that you continue to embody every single day, and it makes us feel good about being colleagues with you as citizens of the United States of America. It's not just because the law says it's right to do, it's because it is right to do. It's a moral obligation, it's an ethical obligation, it's an obligation born of supreme humanity. I am very proud to work with you. I'm very proud to work on behalf of this President and the U.S. Department of Justice to ensure that the reason you fought in Southeastern Asia, the reason you bring to your work every single day as citizens of this country, all the vision, all the purpose, all the power of your intellect and your commitment to this country, the reason for your living is still what commissions us every day to do our work too. And know that the U.S. Department of Justice, know that this President, this Attorney General is committed to ensuring that your civil rights under the Constitution and the laws passed by our congressmen, by our senators, signed by the President every single day are enforced on your behalf of your children, on behalf of your grandchildren, and the generations yet to come. There's a great, wonderful thing inscribed on the U.S. Department of Justice building in Washington, D.C. It's postured about halfway between the White House and the Capitol on Pennsylvania Avenue. The President walks by it every time he is inaugurated. It says this: before justice can exist in the conduct and the conscience of a government, it must first reside in the hearts and the souls of its citizens. Let me say that again. Before justice can exist in the conduct and the conscience of a government, it must first reside in the hearts and the souls of its citizens. That's you. That's me. That's us. And until we come to the time when we know that civil rights are understood and embraced by every American, until that day is here, the U.S. Department of Justice, with you in partnership, will work to ensure that great mission is pursued. I'm so very pleased to be with you today, as I have been in other circumstances. The festivals in Oshkosh and Appleton not too long ago were also great celebrations of the culture. Let us continue to work toward that time when all of us embrace what we all are, that America is better because of the diversity that we bring to our community, racially, ethnically, in terms of our faith, our backgrounds, our heritages, our sexual orientations, those of us with disabilities, those with perspectives that are simply different from others. That's what makes us stronger. That's what makes America better. And with you, in partnership with you, I am so very pleased to go forward in pursuit of that great admonition about working together. It is what justice is about. I'm so very pleased to be with you here today, and I commission us to go forward from this time to continue to embrace the important civil rights work that's yet out there for us, for which you fought, for which you breathe, for which you live. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your service, and I look forward to our continued partnership in the days, the months, the years ahead. Take care.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you again. Okay. Nhà luôn gặp chị đẹp với cái em bây giờ cái nhà luôn máu dọc nơi ít tụi cái hay người hàng người ở luôn nó ra ô lô lô nô giờ luôn các người cái trai chứ vang vọng xí lùa nhưng giờ ít tụi nó đi ra vàng ra thì tụi nó đi okay sir I prefer you will be the next president I will be the first to vote for okay Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah. However, I was a master ceremony for many events. But today is a little bit different. Why? Our system has been shut. Why shut? We have two-page speaker. We have two-page speaker today. They will be used since this morning until now. So that's my life. I was MC for many events. This time, I believe we have so many speakers. That's a really great event. Thank you for my brother Charlie for inviting me to be your MC. Thank you. Okay, we still have 2 more to go. Please be patient with me. Thank you. The next one, I would like to invite Mr. David, Special Guerrilla Unit from Minnesota, the commander.
Thank you to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all of you for to be here today, and thank to all members and to all special distinguished guests here today, or to the long journey with us to the special ceremony. And thank you to all leaders of the organization and this event happening today. And thank you to all making contribution and support this event. Without you contribution, we would not have this ceremony. I'm also proud to see you all during this commemoration, this honor. This honor, it means a lot for the SGU family. And thank you very much. God bless SGU and the United States of America. Thank you. I could speak long, but I just say a few words. Thank you.
Okay, finally, I would like to invite
Mr. Paul Company Board Representative from Ohio, please come forward.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, sir. My name is Paul. I still full-time with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office in the state of Ohio. I count down every day, got 18 more months before I hang up my hat. But I'm enjoyed to be part of US SGU. I actually served US government long before I became US citizen in 1969. Most of my family members served US in Laos. My uncle picture hang up there on the wall. When the company took over the country, they put the red X cross on his face, dead or alive. I said, well, what am I gonna do now? I gotta go. Yeah, I am. Ladies and gentlemen, after listening to all wonderful speech today, they made me feel so proud to be here. Thank you to all great leaders who are here with us today. You do us all great honor today by making time in your busy schedule to attend this special event. With all SGU members and family today, your present will be remembered in the future to come and will not be forgotten. Thank you to all the US SGU veteran members and family who made the long journey from distant as Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio, Michigan, and Minnesota, and elsewhere in the United States, to be together for this memorable event. I know it was a long journey, but its special event could happen without all of you here, and this moment supporting each other as well stand here today. It was nice to see some of you today for so many years in this country. I hope to see all of you again in the future. Also, thank you to all members who made contribution for this event. Without your contribution, we would not be in Wisconsin today. Please continue to support the SGU and this great nation and help to protect this great nation. We still have a lot of things to do. We don't want to see that 9/11 again, and we don't want to see anything happen to cause any harm to our citizens in this country. Please be eye, be ear. You see something, say something. If you cannot handle the situation, you have your chain of command. Contact the local police officer, contact the FBI. We can see the problem. Thank you. Thank you. And you get to go home.